are face masks a prerequisite for ending a lockdown and returning to normal life? Newsflash, mandatory mask is not normal life. They do it in China, and China is not normal life. It's communist life, okay? All right, so I'm glad we got that out of the way. Hi, welcome to our channel, Retire Earlier and Better, anywhere on the globe, wherever it suits you best, even at home or abroad. In this video, we're talking about the COVID-19 and the hubbub that's going around on the internet right now. We have talked about the various top issues on this subject. Now, recently we also made a video why COVID-19 will not change the financial world order and China will fall. Why we made that video, why I'm talking about it right now, because in that video I touched on how China is the purveyor of propaganda at this time and misinformation in order to push their world communism agenda onto an unsuspecting population. Going along with this conversation, we're going to today focus on the mandatory aspects of masks, which a lot of areas seem to have embraced the mandatory mask. So I ran into this video, everything you need to know about face masks. Now, it sounds innocent enough, everything you know about face masks, and it does touch a little bit on the types of different masks, but really what this video is about is, and it attempts to appear to be, non-biased, but as I'll show you in a minute, it's very biased because, well, guess what? In the very first minute of the video, they mentioned that masks are mandatory even on the streets. Where? In China.
网贷了，你想过吗？你不过这都不讲过了哈，干什么你搁这儿？
知道什么？知道这。组长，别废话，科长。好，谁能出来的？这口罩了吗？腿广播了吗？口罩的。
Okay, so this video is titled Everything You Need to Know About Face Masks, and the first thing we're told is that they're mandatory in China, even on the streets. I mean, how does that not scream, okay, you guys want to be communists? Is that it? You want the whole world to be communist? Why does that even matter? I mean, if we were trying to emulate communist China, hey, let's go do what they do, right? But if we're not trying to emulate communist China, this information doesn't belong in this video. Okay, again, as an attempt to try to sound unbiased, they ask unbiased sounding questions like, should masks be worn, or is it all nonsense? Knowing full well that there is some fact. As I said, we made that video about facts and hysteria. The foundation of this whole conversation always comes down to this, okay? People seem to miss the forest for the trees. And when we talk about this coronavirus and sickness and spreading and masks and whether it should be mandatory or not, it comes down to understanding that it has already been exposed by a medical community that a very small percentage of the population even contracts the coronavirus, let alone that most of those don't even die from it. I have friends, I know people that got it. They were ill for some of them a week, 2 weeks, some of them 3 or 4 weeks, depending on their age, okay? That's the whole foundation of every single conversation that is missing.
And to date, we've done a little over 6,000 tests with about 450 positives. This is a PCR test. It's a nasal swab. There's about 900,000 people in Kern County. And we said, let's just do a press release saying, at this moment in time, we're showing, at that time it was 4.5%. Currently, it's 7.3% of a moment in time. Out of our 6,100 tests that are PCR nasal swabs, 7.3% are positive. We weren't necessarily extrapolating, although we did sort of say, if this is an accurate sample, then we've got quite a few more cases in Kern County than we had anticipated. The hospital released some data today. In the hospital today, there is 14 cases of COVID out of 900,000 people. And there's 3 people on ventilators per their public data. So when you talk about an overwhelming COVID illness, in Kern County, we do not have that.
The total number of COVID-19 cases worldwide now stands at over 5.3 million.
When I go to videos like this and look at all the comments, people aren't focused. They're not really understanding that a very small percentage of the population contracts coronavirus. Now, that is extremely important because when we get to the part of the conversation about should masks be compulsory, you're talking about every single person in the population being told they must wear a mask, even the 90% of the population that is healthy. Okay? All right, so that's big, that's huge. So then it goes on to ask, how do we end the lockdown? It does these little rhetorical type questions. How do we end the lockdown without, it's suggestive, listen to this. How do we end the lockdown without risking a rise in new cases? This is just an assumption that the numbers, are such that everyone's going to contract this disease if we don't do all of the narrative, the social distancing, the mask, the this, the that, and that it should be mandatory. So it's asking this and suggesting at the same time that if we don't have masks on, we're going to risk new cases. And that's not a cause and effect, okay? It's been proven already. Because it also ignores that Sweden and other areas in the world, and also states in the USA, do not make masks compulsory, and they don't have the feared increase in the numbers that these kinds of videos purport to disseminate. Now, also, the video doesn't just talk about the communist China that dictates everyone must wear a mask even on the street. Bingo, to me, there's your communism. If you want communism, then there you go.
So absolutely sure of the evil character of the communist system. We were massively opposing this system. It was brought with the external invasion to our country, and we are very lucky to be out of this and to be able to develop freely.
But the other thing is that she goes and to interview, and again, this is like portrayed as as an innocent interview of the experts. Be careful when the experts are brought in, because this particular expert is a virologist from Hong Kong, but guess what? He does work for WHO, and that's already broken out into the news. WHO is just a mouthpiece for China. Again, there we go again. Propaganda machine. China is at it again.
As if we needed any more proof that the World Health Organization has debased itself and its mission statement and devolved into nothing more than a puppet of the brutal, oppressive Chinese Communist Party. Listen to this. The World Health Organization oddly fails to mention that one of the 9 goodwill ambassadors listed on the WHO website is Peng Liyuan. Now, you may not be familiar with the name Peng Liyuan. And if you read her bio on the World Health Organization website, she's only listed as a good-hearted person and a singer from China. What the World Health Organization fails to mention is Peng Liyuan is the wife of Chinese President Xi Jinping. That's right.
Okay, and here we are in a video titled Everything You Need to Know About Masks, and yet they leave out these important facts that there are countries that aren't making these kinds of this narrative mandatory, and yet they are not suffering the numbers. Not only that, we're nowhere to be seen, the real numbers that, the majority of people aren't contracting it, and even smaller still is the number of people that die from it. So the expert says the best thing we can do is stay home and away from people. But again, this is assuming, that everyone that's out there is sick and is putting out some kind of virus. Therefore, they need a mask, So when 90% of people aren't sick, what's the mask for? Because the mask, as he goes on to say, the expert says that it provides some benefit. Well, okay, that's like saying, that you're just a little bit pregnant. I mean, if it doesn't provide 100%, guaranteed protection, then it's immaterial and shouldn't be compulsory, okay? But again, even assuming that it was 100% effective, again, we're ignoring the whole foundational issue that I keep going back to here, and that is that 90% of the people do not have it. Those that are sickly and are concerned about being ill should guard themselves, and if someone is ill, they definitely should protect other people. But I see people in the comments saying, oh, we should all protect each other. Why? Are you all sick? You don't all protect each other. You protect me, I protect you because we both wear a mask. If we were both sick, that would be the case. But even so, it would not be the case because this professor says that mask provides some benefit. So, you're going to be a little bit pregnant. This whole video, it just stands out to me, and I cannot ignore this kind of propaganda coming obviously from you-know-where.
But let me tell you one thing. Living in communism is quite a bit different than reading books about it or being fascinated about it while still living in free Western world.
I grew up in a Soviet system under the communists, and I know how severe it is.
And I have to say that I experienced our country as a prison. We literally had not the walls, but the fences with thorns just surrounded our country, and we couldn't travel anywhere, we couldn't express our opinions, we couldn't gather, we couldn't be free.
And then she asks, again, trying to be unbiased, are face masks a prerequisite for ending a lockdown and returning to normal life? Newsflash, mandatory mask is not normal life. They do it in China, and China is not normal life. It's communist life.
That regime, without any doubt, was absolutely corrupt and inefficient. Of course, no democracy is perfect, but it is for many levels better than anything connected with communism. I wonder why the young generation in some Western countries is now leaning to the left, and it's still being inspired by ideas of Karl Marx and others, because we who have experienced that regime in our own lives can never understand that.
Okay, all right. Now, even so, the professor admits face masks are not the magic bullet to getting back to normal, but of course, being connected to the WHO, he goes on to be pro-narrative, trying to use that idea as a reason why all the other parts of the narrative, the social distancing, the contact tracing, and all the other things should all be done together in order to, get back to normal. And the video ends with an instructional piece by a woman that says, masks are only effective. She did say, masks are only effective with good hand hygiene. And this, in fact, is impossible when you're out on the road, out on the street, to have good hand hygiene, because you're out, you're getting on buses, you're touching everything, you go to the store, and sure, if you're wearing your mask, You can't be washing your hands every 30 seconds. You're going to be maybe adjusting your mask. You're going to be taking your mask off. You're going to be putting it back on. There are many situations throughout our daily lives where it is necessary for us to take the mask off in order to go forward with our normal existence. So therefore, this in fact, masks are only effective with good hand hygiene is impossible. So there you go. I'm glad you stayed with me to the end, and all I do is tell you the facts, the truth, and do all the things you're supposed to do, you know, to the video, and comment below. Let's have a educated conversation about this mandatory anything. Has to be questioned, vigorously debated, and vigorously debunked when the facts are not present and all we're getting is propaganda and an agenda from the communists in this world. All right. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.